How would you define a startup? I think that a lot of people are misunderstanding that the startup is also the same thing as a small business.
I think the definition of startup is a business that can grow at scale. What I mean by grow at scale is that when you grow as a company, that the potential market is a global market in one sense, and the second is that to be able to grow, that you don't have to grow headcount. So if you want to grow customers and you have to hire people along with that, then it's not a easily scalable business. But with the companies that we consider startups, it's a handful of people that can serve the entire world. I mean, Instagram, when it was sold to Facebook, had 12 employees, right?
It was my thought just right now.
Yeah, so I mean, Code Anywhere now, the company that I still co-own with my co-founder, has 17 people, and we have thousands of customers around the world, right, from anywhere. So that's the idea. I mean, Infobip, creates billions of dollars in revenue, and we have 3,000 people, but that's still a small number compared to the number of, of the scale of the actual company.
Prije nego što krenemo sa podcastom, želim zahvaliti našem sponzoru, Podcast Studio Hrvatska, koji je potpuno tehnički opremljen i spreman za snimanje audio i video sadržaja. U ponudu ulazi kompletna produkcija materijala te distribucija na platforme. Glavni ciljevi su pružiti podršku svim zainteresiranima i oko sebe stvoriti zajednicu. Podcast Studio Hrvatska nalazi se u prostoru Vespa Spaces na adresi Heinzlova 60 Zagreb. My name is Vinko and this is LOOD podcast, a place of information and inspiration that helps you improve in career and life. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, comment, like, and hit that notification bell. If you are more inclined to audio version of the podcast, please follow us on Spotify, Apple or Google platforms. You can also connect with us on social media, for example, like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or LinkedIn. So it's my pleasure to welcome Ivan Burazin in the podcast. Let me say a few words about Ivan. So he is a founder of Shift Conference. Today, the Shift conference is called Infobip Shift. He is also co-founder and president of Code Anywhere, a cloud integrated development environment. Maybe it would be easy to describe it as a Google Docs for developers that you said in one interview that I listened to. And his newest role is as Chief Developer Experience Officer at Infobip. So Ivan, thank you for accepting my call. And it's a pleasure to sit with you and talk and pick your mind.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so for the start, let us just try to give some kind of a background story of your life. Where have you been born? A little bit about the childhood, maybe about the school days, and then the beginning of your career. And let's try to go to this point in bite-size stories, maybe, or something like that.
Sure, that's going really way back. I usually go back 10 years, and that's okay. About it. Born Toronto, Canada, so I was born in Canada, and I was there until I finished elementary school. Both parents Croatian, so at one point they decided to move to Croatia to Split, and I moved here in high school and moved to Split, Croatia in high school, and been there ever since. Although I've traveled all over the place, but basically been living there for quite some time.
So what was the experience of coming back to Croatia when you were a teenager already? Were you speaking with your parents Croatian or?
Yeah, I had, our parents made us go to Croatian school on Saturdays. So I had 6 days of school as a kid. So Monday to Friday normal school, and then Saturday Croatian school. I hated them because of that, because I couldn't watch cartoons. Because there's always all the best cartoons were Saturday mornings.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And were you talking Croatian in house with the parents?
So I say, like, the way we spoke, I would say it was Anglo-Croatian.
Anglo-Croatian.
Over there, but when we moved to Croatia, it became Croatio-English or whatever, in the sense that we'd use more, in Canada, we used more English words and then threw Croatian in it. And when we came here, it was vice versa. Just example, we would always use, I don't even know what the word for sink, so sink in the kitchen is. And we'd use a Croatian sentence and say we left it in the sink. But like everything else would be Croatian, but the sink would stay in English. So that's the kind of quasi-language we used at home.
Okay. I think that people in this region are more familiar with German, Croatian, Gastarbeiter, that kind of accent. But this one is also famous and popular.
Yep.
So maybe before we go to the start of your entrepreneurial career, which is maybe the focus of this episode, can you maybe give us an idea of do you think that your childhood and the parenting style of your parents has something to do with the situation that you are in right now, that helped you in some ways?
Sure. I mean, for one thing, as a child, I was trilingual, I think, in that sense. I sort of forgot French, but we went, half the day was in French by choice, not it wasn't, you didn't have to.
It was mandatory.
Yeah, it wasn't mandatory, but you could do it. So we did French half the day, English half the day, and then Croatian Saturday. So that helps you sort of like, your mind, I guess, learns sort of to learn things. And on top of that, even when we're talking about here in this part of the world, in this region of the world, I see that a lot of people that are entrepreneurial have actually lived a lot abroad or are originally from abroad. I mean, there are people that haven't done both, but a large proportion are. And I think that's something to do with the general upbringing of that Western type of thought, as that, you know, you can do whatever you want, like you're the master of your own destiny. Not to say that everyone does that. I mean, there's all sorts of people everywhere in the world, both rich and poor, successful and unsuccessful, but just coming from a place where everyone tells you can and you believe you can, and then you come to a place where a lot of people think you can't, I think that does maybe push you to actually do that, because you're very often you're the only one in the room that actually believes that. So I think that's something that pushes you in that direction.
I've never been to Canada before. I've been to United States. In few simple words, could you describe or maybe compare the mindset of Canadians when you compare it with the American ones? Because when you say that living abroad gives you the opportunity, maybe that you have this bigger belief in yourself, and that you can achieve bigger goals, especially when you are thinking about America. It is inside of the DNA of their culture that everything is possible. When you compare it with the Canadians,
yeah, Canadians are less so. I'd say like Canada is the nice brother of the U.S. So Canadians are very polite. They're very like, thank you, and they'll ask you how you're doing and whatnot. So they're very, very, very polite. But they're not as, in general, when you take them, like everything that the United States of America has, for the good and the bad, all the extremes. I mean, for the good and bad, you have it in the Canada, but not as extreme. So you don't have people as successful. I mean, in general, the number one place for billionaires in the world, I think, still is the United States of America. So like you have that, but you also have less of the extreme on the other side. So it's more of a perfect, or more of a nice place. So it sits somewhere in between the extremes of like highly successful and highly unsuccessful people. So you get a lot of that from the US, a lot of influence, but a lot more safe, nice, I think.
Yeah, okay. So let's unveil your entrepreneurial story. as from what I could research, the beginning, was it with Code Anywhere, or was something before the Code Anywhere?
I had two things before. So the first thing that we can call entrepreneurial, I think, in that sense, I created with my younger brother, a search engine for RapidShare. RapidShare was something that people used before torrents anyway. There's legit use cases for that, and I won't go into details other than that, but I created that search engine, and it was just a hack together job, and used some SEO tactics, and ended up getting a Google ads check every month in the mail. And I was fairly young. I was still in high school or university, I think it was high school, and making, so that was sort of the first project I made, and I ended up selling it to a person. So I actually got acquired. A guy out of Istanbul sent me an email, went back and forth. We ended up selling it. I mean, I sold it for $5,000, but it was like, yeah, I made $5,000, great. So that was my first exit. After that, at some point, I got a job as a system administrator in a fairly large company. So it was a couple hundred people. Moved through the ranks, became the leader of the sort of IT department, and spin that out into my own company. So it's basically a system integrator company, a company that does anything from software integrations to hardware, servers, routers, and that sort of thing. Very old IT in that sense. While I had that, I actually met the co-founder of Code Anywhere, which we started. I can get into that later. But I figured that the way the market was going, the margins were, I decided that there wasn't enough potential in that old IT, and then I sold that to a competitor, local competitor. So that was my sort of like second exit, which was a couple times. It was quite. So
you were talking about the Code Anywhere?
No. Before that, it was a company before that. So I had a first company. It was called Gapon, which was a search engine.
Okay.
Then I had a company called Procedo, which is the IT service company.
Okay.
And I sold that to a competitor locally, and then I had Code Anywhere. Yeah. And so while I was doing Code Anywhere, I also started the conference, which later got acquired. But Code Anywhere was an interesting one. If you've watched HBO's Silicon Valley, the show. Yes, okay. So like the whole first season was our life, 2014, 13, something like that. So we went to San Francisco. We were on the stage at TechCrunch Disrupt. We got the investors. We went to Techstars. We got the checks on coffee with people. So we went to an investor on coffee, and we went home with a $50,000 check, right? And we did that all the way up until almost $1 million that we got into that, which was not super big at the time, but fairly decent.
For Code Anywhere.
For Code Anywhere, yeah. So that company the company's fairly old. It was incorporated in 2013, and now it's 2022. Mm-hmm. So 9 years, although we did it before a couple of years as well. So it's almost a teenager of a company for a startup that is old. It's had its ups and downs. And right now it's actually going very, very well. The idea behind that is, as you said, it's a Google Docs for software developers. So software developers can, inside their web browser, program code and collaborate, see each other's cursors and stuff like that. It was always made as an end user product, meaning similar to Google Docs, you yourself personally and me will go to the website, create an account and use it. But what we have moved into the last sort of year is business to business, where we actually give the software to other companies to embed into their own software. And that has been actually going very well as of late. So should I pause here for a second? I feel like I've been talking too much.
No, it's fine. So I see that you are the real definition of the serial entrepreneur.
Yeah. Just the next one, yeah.
Just the next one.
No, I think it's more, sorry to jump in. So I think it's more as I don't want to be a serial entrepreneur. I believe it's a means to an end, in the sense that, and a lot of people want to be the next Bezos, Elon Musk, whatever. Like you're successful in what you do in that one thing, and I do believe that's the best way. But being a person living in like the outskirts of the second largest city, the largest city of a 4 million person country, without the financial background knowledge, or like I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Without that, I felt like this is what I knew, and I used that to create a company. And then when I learned how to do something better, then I sold this and sort of went on to the next one. I hope my next company, when that comes one day, will be not to say the last, but in the sense that in that sense, Amazon, the company that will leave on, for the future.
Okay. So when you are talking and when I'm listening to you, it looks easy for you, but I know that nothing in life is easy. What would you suggest, or maybe can you describe your experience, but maybe a little bit more in detail, the emotions and the tactics? How did you find your co-founder? Were you a technical co-founder, or maybe he was? How the idea got into your mind? Did you needed a lot of time to think about it, did you rather start it and saw the first step, and then after it then the next one, and the path just started to unveil to yourself?
I think it was, I'll go the easy answer first. I was very much a yes person before. So everyone, if you came up with an idea and I was like, oh, this makes sense, I'd say yes, which is bad. Like, don't do that. People don't do that. But if it ended up if you see it's not working out, I'd sort of like disappear, ghost, say no later on or whatever. But I still do get excited about ideas very, very fast, and always say yes to everyone. And that does create complications, especially if it becomes successful. You said yes, you didn't take care of it, you didn't think about percentages, or if someone stays or someone goes. And also what people don't think about when working with someone is, what is that person's end goal? When you're young and you're fairly not rich, wealthy, or without means, then you believe that we all have the same thing. We want to achieve success, money, whatever it is. But people have actually very different levels that they want to achieve in life. And that is a place where a lot of co-founders, whatever their company may be, do break up, because you have different set of expectations and you just didn't go through with that. So I would definitely say don't do that. But to answer your question, I basically jumped in. So when it was the IT company, it was like, oh, let's spin this off. I was talking to the owner of the company and he's like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Done. The next day, done. The co-founder of Code Anywhere came with the idea. I mean, he had a prototype, and I was reading TechCrunch, and I'm like, oh, this is the next Google Docs. And he's like, okay, here's half of it, and make it into Google Docs. And I said, yeah, and I went into that. When I did the Shift conference, I was at a conference in Vienna, and I was talking to the founders. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. It doesn't exist in Croatia. He's like, you can do it, and I'll help you. And I'm like, okay, done. And that was, and these are the ones that actually ended up being companies, but there's a lot down the line that I said yes to, and that probably failed as well. I wouldn't suggest doing that. Suggest, take a bit and think about it.
So you go from 0 to 100 very
fast,
quickly.
Yeah. But I'm older now, so it's harder. I was younger then. I had more energy, so you could do so much. Yeah.
So you didn't, before Code Anywhere, your co-founder, he invited you to join him. And that's how it all started. But from this standpoint, with the experience that you have right now, what would you say? What is the best way to go and to find someone? And is it more advisable to go with someone or do it by yourself? And how should you decide? Maybe someone works better if they are the only founder.
Yeah, I mean, like for the Shift conference, I was the only founder. And I did that all on my own. And it's harder because you're on your own, but it's easier in the sense that you can push your ideas through because you're the only one there. You do have team employees, but you're the only one there. So it makes that part a lot easier. But if you're getting started, and this is a reason why a lot of people do have co-founders, is you don't know what you're doing, and just having someone to help you. And it's hard. We didn't get to that topic and get to that. It's really hard. And you'll find that when you have a co-founder, if it's a good match, and this happened with us in Code Anywhere, is that when my co-founder wasn't doing anything, when he was down, I was pulling it, when I sort of disappeared off the face of the planet, he continued pulling it. So the company kept going no matter who was pushing it. And that's why you're actually there, right? So, I mean, it really depends on the type of person. And I also read a report that actually single founder startups are actually more successful than multi-founder startups. I read that somewhere, even though companies like accelerators like Y Combinator and whatnot actually do push you to have multiple founders. So, I mean, it depends how much you can carry on your own, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So before your first project, you were a full-time employee in one company.
Mm-hmm.
Were you starting this your first entrepreneurial project while you were working in that company as a side job, and then it went full-time? Or
so I was always working for myself even before. So I did like websites and things before I did my first project, and then I did the project, and I sold that, and then I got up to the point that I was going to go to university. And I remember my parents telling me that I had to go, or they'd throw me out the house or something like that. And then no, it was like if you're going to leave university, you have to get a job. And I do believe at that point I should have just said no, although it did bring me where I am, and just continue working it. But it was like, you know how parents are, like you have to have a job, like working for someone, 9 to 5, and then you're okay. Like you have a job.
Be safe.
Yeah.
That's it.
It ended up well because the job I did take, the owner actually became sort of a mentor to me, and he was like he's fairly successful even now, but in his life he was very successful. So I picked up on a few things. But I do think that maybe I should have had at that point, now when talking to you, it would have made more sense just like to kick it in. And so I spent a couple of years, was 5 years working for that company until I spun it out. So that stint and now working at Infobip for a year has been the only time that I've worked for anyone in my life. Everything else was either freelance or my own companies.
So when thinking about starting this journey that you started 10 years ago, is there a place where you can learn before you start? Books, podcasts, maybe mentorship or something like that? Did you just went into the process and learned by doing, or did you have also some kind of other ways of learning before jumping in?
So on the first ones, I just jumped in and learned while doing, which isn't completely bad, but it is, you do lose a lot of time, or like you make a lot of mistakes that don't make sense. I think it was Elon Musk that I listened to him on a podcast, I believe it was, where he said you can learn anything, or you can be in the top 10% of anything if you go to like 10 conferences and read 10 books, and you're already in the top 10% of the world of whatever it is. I mean, 10% is not that small, but like you're already there. And then you have that, 10,000 hour rule if you keep whatever. And then when I was researching a project that I wanted to do at some point, and I didn't do it because other things turned around, it was about financial technology in general, and I basically just ordered like 10 books about fintech, banking, stock exchanges, and I basically read through them, all of them, and I went to a couple of conferences. And now when we're in the age of, everyone's in crypto and whatnot, for me, all of that already makes super sense because I did all the research for something else. So it took me maybe a year to go through all that and get that done, and I can say I'm very proficient in that sector now, and building a company like that would be so much easier for me now that I have that knowledge. So definitely, to your point, if you're going into anything, it's okay to create an MVP and start and try things out, but you can shorten your time by podcasts, books, events, and meeting these people and getting into that community.
So if we are talking about education in regards of entrepreneurship, I've seen that you mentioned in some interview that I read online that there is in your current company Infobip, that there is a startup tribe program that you have there. So can you maybe tell us a little bit more about it? So this is one way, I suppose, that how can you immerse before you start to get some help and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to take everything you can. The cool thing about technology is that anyone can succeed no matter where they are, So, I mean, even if you're here in Croatia, like the Startup Tribe program is a global program. But if you're here, you can enter it, and hopefully it can help you out. It's not, you should read the books, you should go to the events, you should, listen to the podcast. But these types of things can help. The Startup Tribe was started. It was an idea that I had, seeing it at other companies. So when I was with my startup and going to investors and being part of Techstars and whatnot, companies like AWS, Google, and these large companies all had these sort of, and Microsoft as well, also had these startup programs. Startup programs, on the base, basically what they do is say, here are our services for free because you're a poor little startup and you can't afford them. And there's a limit, but like the idea is that when you're able to pay for them, you can, but for now, we're not going to kill you. Here you go. But what I try to enforce this or bring this to the team, and my colleague now, Nikola Pavasic, runs that, is that we want to give something that I learned at Techstars, which is give first. So it's not just that we give credits. The idea behind it is that we also give them, that we help them with their pitch decks, that we intro them to accelerators, to VCs, anything that we can do to help them succeed. And this is no strings attached. There's no equity. There's no nothing that we as Infobip take from the startups. It's basically, we hope we can help you, and when you succeed, you give back to the community. And in that sense, we bring that sort of circle, self-perpetuating circle of success.
So this is a global thing.
Global, yeah.
It's not only for
it's
Croatian
global
startups.
We have companies, in Brazil, in India, and everywhere in the world.
So how would you define a startup? I think that a lot of people are misunderstanding that the startup is also the same thing as a small business.
I think the definition of startup is a business that can grow at scale. What I mean by grow at scale is that when you grow as a company, that the potential market is a global market in one sense, and the second is that to be able to grow, that you don't have to grow headcount. So if you want to grow customers and you have to hire people along with that, then it's not a easily scalable business. But with the companies that we consider startups, it's a handful of people that can serve the entire world. Instagram, when it was sold to Facebook, had 12 employees, right?
That was my thought just right now.
Yeah, so yeah. Code Anywhere now, the company that I still co-own with my co-founder, has 17 people, and we have thousands of customers around the world, right, from anywhere. So that's the idea. Infobip, creates billions of dollars in revenue, and we have 3,000 people, but that's still a small number compared to the number of, of the scale of the actual company.
But to do something like that, you need to have a leverage. And what do you consider the biggest leverage in today's world?
I don't think you have to have leverage. You definitely have to have insight that other people might not have. Timing is really important because you can make products too early and they can still fail. You can make them too late and then you're too late. So it's also about timing. But I think it's mostly about insight and execution on top of that. Because you'll always see, if we're looking at the startup world or any business world, you'll always see multiple players at similar times coming out. And especially in the startup world, it's a winner take most. So it's basically the number one will have like 70% of the market, number two, 20%, number three will have like 5%, and then whatever's left, the small 5% for everyone else. Especially
in digital businesses.
Absolutely. Monopolies are not allowed, but it's like almost. So that's why it's a lot to do with execution as well.
Yeah. When I was thinking about the leverage, I don't know if you're familiar with Naval Ravikant. Have you heard about this guy before? When I read his books, he's always talking about the leverage being the most known leverage that we had so far in businesses was of course labor, the leverage of other people working on the same goal. And in the modern times, he's mentioning the leverage of code,
Technology.
which you are very familiar with, and the second one is also media, which is digital or content-wise, whatever.
What you're doing.
What I'm doing right now, yeah. So what is your comment on that?
I think that's those things are actually very powerful. I mean, if we're talking about what I mentioned with scale, that's what technology enables you to, and so you don't need people. You have code or technology that does that, but definitely having an audience is something that you can leverage, especially in my new function, which is developer experience and/or developer relations. The idea behind that, we haven't gotten into it, but the idea behind that, or any one that is trying to sell a product to a specific audience, you can always go the route of advertising, marketing, and sales, which is okay when you get to a level, because it can get very expensive very fast and get to the point of, very soon, of diminishing returns. But if you have a community, or you build a community around the problem you're solving, then you can very quickly, effectively, and relatively cheaply grow an enormous user base, not just an audience. So you create an audience that becomes a user base, i.e. you're trying to create a product that, I don't know, that helps people, in urban cities, grow plants, whatever it may be, or deliver them. Then you create a community on Slack, on Instagram, on whatever it may be, of people with that problem, and you don't sell them, but just because you are the person in the center of the community, it makes it a lot easier for them to trust you, and actually they'll ask you how to, where to buy, how to solve, or whatever.
So how does life look for Ivan at the moment? If you have, like on iPhone, for example, if you have the usage, the memory usage of your life, and we think about the time usage in your life at the moment, what time do you allocate for Infobip Shift, for other things in Infobip, Code Anywhere? So how does it look for you?
So I'm at the point where I have to put everything in my calendar. One thing is also sleep's actually really important. I've always been a person that's been hard to fall asleep, and I've always waken up tired. So it's hard to go to sleep in the evening, but you're tired during the day. And I've gone through like all sorts of things and read books and everything. And so definitely I've gotten to the point where 8 hours of sleep or like 7.5 is a must. So like I block out that sleep as much as I can, except traveling, which, takes that out of the picture. So it's basically around 10:30, 11 sleep, 7:30 you're awake, and that's definitely not enough. I'm turning 40 almost, so definitely going to the gym. I also have a little gym in the house or in the apartment now, because I have to get a half hour in. Otherwise, back starts hurting. You feel old. You have to get that. So those are two things in there. Everything else is almost all work. Everything. Like wife is booked in the calendar as well to hang out. So we'll see how that works out. For now, we're okay. Because the reason being is just the company is growing very, very fast. We have high expectations. I've been brought on not just to run the conference, but I run everything that's geared toward the developer, and that's sort of in 3 verticals. We have the actual conference team, the startup tribe, and also developer relations. I do have one person that's heading the startup team, Nicola, which is great, but I'm missing the other 2, so I basically have to run those teams in parallel. And so just to give context, Shift will be doing 2 conferences this year, 3 next year. This year also doing 25 meetups across the United States. The startup tribe we had like 200 applications this year. I believe the number is like 600. And we're going as a team to 6 large conferences and getting speaking spots. Developer relations has 3 people. The plan is to get to 15. We're doing 15 conferences, and our competitors have anywhere from like 1 to 10 million developers on their system. We're very, very low. So there's a lot of upside, but there's a lot of people to get on there. So we're running all of that. And here and there, as now no longer the CEO, but the president of Code Anywhere, which is now growing very fast, you check in on them. A little bit of, equities and crypto on the side, and sometimes you have to just like take a break and watch TV, and that's your day.
It sounds super intense.
It's actually I'm actually very tired right now, but yeah.
You're very tired. So we can slide in that part maybe, and then I will ask you those technical questions. What is Infobip Shift, and what is Infobip doing generally? But for someone striving to go on your path, I suppose that you need to know that it's really hard to do a few things simultaneously. So you need to be very strict on to prioritize how to prioritize your day. If you are working 12 hours a day, how are you going to find a time for kids maybe? How are you going to find time for wife? How are you going to find time for yourself? What percentage of time goes in your life for yourself? I don't know if you have any routines of maybe reading, meditation, introspection, or things like that. Because in my experience, it's unbelievably important, because you need to look for the bigger picture and to think long term.
Yeah, well, I try to put all those things in. I think the hardest part is actually with yourself. I mean, just like introspection wise, I might do that too often. So like you'll find me often if I'm driving a car or something, I won't even have music on or anything. It'll be just silence, so you can do that part. Also, I can't wind down the end of the day until it's sort of run through everything that's happened. As of late in the mornings, I actually, as soon as I wake up, I go outside on like the terrace, and I'm like about 5 minutes, nothing more than that. Just like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not meditating or anything. I don't know. I'm just trying to like get in that point of like talking to yourself. I read books on the weekends if I have time, or if we're on vacation, which happens here and there. Basically just a lot of book reading, actually reading them, not the audiobooks. I like those more. Other than that, it's like daily on the gym bicycle with the audiobooks. So I do those two things simultaneously to get the most. If I'm not doing a Teams meeting while I'm on the bike, then it's like an audiobook. So that's how I try to fit those things. But I think the biggest struggle, you mentioned this earlier, is actually how to do it. Because you want to, I have a feeling that in my entire career, if we can call that, I'm always going backwards. I commented this to someone the other day. I feel like every day, like shit goes bad. But I wake up in the morning, like I've actually moved forward, but it feels like I'm going back. I'm envious in a very good way of my friends that I feel that like for them, something's just like, when you have someone that like, it goes easy. No, for no one's easy, but it goes in the direction that they want it to. I have a feeling that it never goes the direction I want it. Ever, 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 ever. I feel like every day it's like, oh God, I have to wake up and get punched in the face 3 times to go back to bed. And then like for some reason, something goes a bit forward and it it's so slow that you can't see it. It's like going to the gym, trying to get fit. Like you don't see anything the first day, the second day it hurts every single day. It
compounds though.
But it compounds, yeah. And that's how I feel my life has been on all planes. Like it hurts every single day. Everything.
Swimming upstream.
Everything. And it could be that I'm just, and I've been thinking about this, like there's something, so Justin Kahn, the founder of Twitch, which I interviewed on the Shift conference.
Justin Kahn.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy.
It was like 5 years ago or whatever. And he said the only thing you have to do is survive. So it's basically perseverance. And that is true. And I found that to be true. Like if you just keep going, like you will succeed. I mean, if I take Shift, which was growing, I think that's the best company I created in the sense of trajectory timing. We were expanding. Corona came. We almost went bankrupt because we were investing in something else. We survived. And at the end of the year, we had an investment offer and a sales acquisition offer, like at the same time. 3 months before, we couldn't make salary. So it's like always persevere. But sometimes I feel like maybe you shouldn't persevere, but you should just like stop doing this because you're an idiot and like do something else. but I'm not sure. That's something I contemplate on. So definitely some people maybe get it easier, someone harder, but I think it's that struggle with yourself to be able to say, and that's why you need the introspection. It's like, why am I doing this? And do I want to keep going forward? Because you get to a point where, at least I'm lucky enough that I don't have to work anymore. Like, I'm not super rich or anything, but like for living in the country we live, I'm pretty much fine, or just like working something whenever I want to. Financially free would be, I think, the exact term. But yeah, actually, I do want to go further, and you have to take the punches every single day on every single field. So like going through that, I think is really important.
So when you are talking with yourself, what do you tell to yourself? What is driving Ivan at the moment to accomplish more, bigger goals?
I mean, one part is, like, it's really weird. I don't know how it is for you. It's like, sometimes I think so if I see someone that succeeds, like, I'm not a jealous person in the negative sense, just in the positive. Like, I'll tell them, like, I hate you because you did this. But I mean, I love the person, but like congrats. But I hate you because I haven't done it. And then you're like, I can do that too. Like, I can do that. And the other times, at the same time, I'll think that I am not good enough, and you have imposter syndrome. So it's like very bipolar in that sense. It's like, oh, in one context I suck, in the other context, oh, I'm better than that person. So it's like seeing my peers that are way more successful than I am. I'm like I can definitely do that, and there's no reason why I can't do that. And it's like a waste of this was so sorry I'm jumping this. At one point in my life, I actually wanted to stop working actively. I was sort of at a crossroads of everything that I was doing. I was like, fine. And I got married because I had time, and like it was time to get married. I was happy to do that, but I had a lot of time in the day. Organized most of the wedding. My wife almost killed me because of that, but it ended up being a great ceremony. And we did a 3-month world tour, flying around the world. Nothing super fancy. We were booking, cheap tickets as we were going. The hotels were higher class in, countries that were less safe. If they were more safe, then they were lower. Like, you had to balance all that out. So it wasn't like we were living large, but it was like full of experiences, from like Sahara Desert to, Machu Picchu to, everywhere. And the last place we went to was New Delhi in India. And the actual difference between the extremely poor and the extremely rich is like, I haven't seen that anywhere actually, except I've seen that in San Francisco, which is actually not.
I've seen it also.
It's not good, but like not at that scale. Like in India, it's just like insane. The amount of these people, and like these people are living on the road, like dirty. It's awful. Actually, after that, I flew to Geneva. I left my wife in Zagreb, went to Geneva, and like people have $100,000 cars all across the street. And so that actually blew my mind. I was actually sort of depressed after that. But I came to the conclusion that I can do it, and then it should be my responsibility to do that. Otherwise, I'm just throwing my life away. And that's sort of what drives me.
Awesome. So for people that maybe do not know the context of Infobip Shift, let's give them a little bit of clue. So at the moment, you are the board member of the Infobip. Is that correct? You are.
I'm on the executive board, the chief developer experience officer. Yes,
that's right. So that is a pretty big deal. If you ask me, so for the people that don't know, the Infobip is the first Croatian unicorn. Unicorn is a company that is evaluated above a billion or above $1 billion. So congrats on that.
Thanks.
Awesome job and the opportunity to help them to grow even bigger. Can you tell us how you came to this opportunity?
Sure.
How did it arrive?
Sure. Let me just backtrack. So Infobip, for the people that don't know, is a cloud communications provider. But that's a mouthful. What the company basically does is offer other companies the ability to easily send SMS messages, voice messages, emails, any type of communication with their client, with their own customers. People think, oh, why don't I just pick up a phone and send an SMS to my customer? Sure, but what if you have like hundreds of millions of customers? Like, how do you send everyone a text message, right? You're not going to stand there all day and
it's pretty hard.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. So we are one of the leaders in the world, like top 3 for sure. And the founders that made it are out of this town in Istria, Vodnjan, which is, I mean, their story is absolutely insane. Insane. I mean, they're not only are they from Croatia, they're from a town. I mean, it's that people from that place can create a company that is fighting with one of Wall Street's top tech companies now, public tech companies, is mind blowing. So that they were able to do that. And the way that Infobip has always worked, it's always been a business-to-business company selling top-down. So they have a huge sales force. They have, I don't know if the right number is like 600, 700 salespeople worldwide. So these are people that are contacting customers. These customers can be, Uber or Hertz Rent-A-Car or any bank here. I mean, our customers are worldwide. And they would call them up, email them, whatever the sales process is, get to decision maker, they would sign a contract, and then they would push the contract to the engineer in their company, and they would then implement Infobip. So if you're, Konzum or if you're Uber, you sign a contract with us, and then you told your engineer, here's like Infobip service, like use that to contact your customers. Our competitors, though, do this as well, but they've also done bottom-up. Bottom-up is where you're talking to and creating a community, as you mentioned, around developers, and said, hey, if you need it, like just for your simple app or anything else to send an SMS or an email or whatever, you can use us. And the competitors, from the numbers that we've seen, get anywhere from like 40 to 45% of their revenue from bottom-up. And so imagine the scale that Infobip has is in, and they have never, prior to a couple of years ago, have never actively worked in this community. And there's an upside of potentially 40% or more to work in this environment. And so over the last 10 years, I've worked on Code Anywhere, which is a Google Docs for developers, and Shift, which was the biggest developer conference in this area. So basically the last 10 years I've been working for developers, either bringing them in person to a conference or virtually bottom up, offering them a service of being able to code. So that's why they sort of, when we met, they sort of called me to join them. And then I said no, just to tell you.
So when I hear this story, the thought that pops into my mind that it is an unbelievable good fit for both parties, for you with the Infobip, with the Shift conference right now, Infobip Shift, because the audience around the Shift was, of course, developers. You also are coming from this background with Code Anywhere, so you know about the developers. You are nurturing this audience for a very long time, and of course, when you joined the team in Infobip, when you know that majority of the decision makers of buyers of the services of Infobip are mainly developers. Is that correct?
Well, not yet, but the idea is that they do become. So up until now, the buyers have been the decision makers in the company. What we're trying to add is that developers also become a large sector of buyers for Infobip as well.
So moments before we were talking about unicorns, and my thesis is that when you look, when you think about Croatia and Croatian people, especially from the context of sports, not to be not to do something that is not that is not fact, to say something that is not fact. I think that we are in the top 3 countries in the world per capita in the sport, in the sporting success. And I heard you saying that with 2 unicorns at the moment, and it was my thesis that if we can be successful in the world of sports, I don't see any difference. The principles of success, or how to get to success, are the same in my opinion. Right now, Croatia has 2 unicorns with Infobip and Rimac Automobili. If we get the 3rd one, we are going to be the #1 in the world per capita.
It is a per capita or per GDP. I can't remember now. But yeah, definitely. Although those things change because you have unicorns, growing
all over the world.
That was a colleague of ours that runs the Startup Tribe actually made that analysis, Nicola, and he pushed it publicly on Notion and also on Netokracija, the entire report. So we should get there pretty fast if we want to still get to that number or get to that impact of being the #1 in that. To your comments about it's similar to sports, yes, but there's a key difference, I think, which makes it more impactful for business. Because in business, when it's a company, you pull a lot of people with you. We're talking about thousands of people, potentially. Whereas when you're in sports, a lot of sports are just like your person and your inner circle are uplifted because of that. So what's interesting to me is, and we talked about this earlier, is that what happens to Croatia if we get 2, 3, 4, 5 unicorns that IPO, and you get a lot of people that are now uplifted out of their socioeconomic class where they were up until now. Like, what happens to Croatia with that? I think that would be, just amazing to watch, if nothing else.
I don't know if you watch football, but can you remember the feeling of our national team coming back to Croatia, to the main square in Zagreb, after we won the 2nd place in the World Cup in Russia?
I wasn't here, but yes, I saw. I wasn't, but I saw the videos. Yes.
It was. I was in Russia, by the way, on the finals, but I came back. I wasn't waiting for them on the main square, but I've seen the videos and the photos and everything. But this emotional roller coaster lasted for even few days after it. I was really amazed when I came back and when I saw driving on the street, people were very polite. Nobody is honking to you. Oh, come on, you go. Ladies first.
Yeah.
And which is for me, I think it is very important to understand that moments like that can uplift the nation so much, and it can give belief and confidence in people that, okay, if Luka Modric can be the #1 player in the world in one of the most populated sports in the world, why cannot I do something with my startup? Or
that's exactly the point. And so that's why we have successful sports people, because we have successful sports people. It's like the self-perpetuating prophecy. You get one, and then everyone, aha, we can see that. On that note, and I was super happy and impressed by that. I was driving in an Uber in Split 6 months ago. And the kid that's driving, fairly young. We had masks on. No one saw who he was. He's like, oh, I have my own startup. I'm like, what? Like, this is like San Francisco talk. It's not, talk from Split. He's like, yeah, I'm watching all these guys, Rima, Sinfinum, all these, they're the people that I want to be. And I'm like we have gotten there. Like, we have some young kid who's just like hustling a side gig just to make ends meet and working on his startup because he wants to be the next guy. And that's how you get there. So absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I think it's not the same thing if we have the ability to learn about things that Elon Musk is doing, Jeff Bezos or guys alike. But it's a different thing when you know that in your hometown or in your country someone is doing things on the global level, world class. So it's definitely different.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it also tells yourself, like, if you see it, it's like television. It's like that person is not here, not in our ecosystem, and it's like, oh, I can't do it because that's out of my out of my range that I can do. But if your neighbor does that, and to my comments before, like when my peers do it, like if they do it, like I can do it. There's no reason I can't do it. Like they've proved me wrong. I mean, there are things with luck and there's things with timing and everything like that. And maybe someone will be like the most successful in the world and you can't be because of other things, but you can get pretty damn close to being like the best in the world of whatever you want to do, especially if the person right next to you has done that. So like, there's no reason you can't do it. So it's on you now. It's like, you have to do it.
Definitely. Is the story of 1 mile hitting, going 1 mile under the 4 minutes. You know the story.
I know about it. You can tell it, but I think I know what you're going at.
Yes. So I don't know how many years needed to go by before first person run 1 mile under the 4 minutes, and after he did it, dozens of people, then hundreds of people, and thousands of people
have done it. Yeah.
We just need to believe that it is
possible,
possible,
yeah.
And then we do it. Let's go back a little bit on Infobip and Infobip Shift. So if we are talking about the world class and the global, what is your goal inside of the Infobip with Infobip Shift and the company as the whole?
To kick our competitors' ass. Like that's basically
That's
it.
simple.
So I mean, just to add context. So I run developer experience, and a subset of that is developer relations. And I won't get into what they are. They're very similar because it'll take another podcast to do that. But what I can tell you is that the two companies that are best in the world at developer relations, one of them is our competitor. So the best in the world at that. So if you're talking about soccer, like you're talking about Barcelona or whoever's the best now. I don't watch football and or soccer, but I know Barcelona's pretty good. So like we're going against them. So it's not like I'm going against a competitor who's just good at their job. They're also one of the best in the world at my job. So like when I'm working against them, like that's how high the bar is set. These are the best in the world. There's no one better in the world that does that. So yeah, that's my job in the company.
So who is your competitor?
So I'm not going to say that here, because just for the sake of not adding, because even if you say it in bad context, but anyone that Google it will find it out like right away. So it's very simple. Yeah, I know it's super easy. But any type of marketing is good marketing, so we won't take the opportunity to give them marketing.
Definitely. So when people ask me what is Infobip, I usually explain it to them with, do you have an Uber app? They say, okay, I have an Uber app. Do you know when you get the notification that your driver is on the way or that he arrived? That's what Infobip is doing. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is basically that's how we explain. Like when people are non-technical, it's basically, if you're technical, it's like a communications API. So you connect your API and then you can send these messages. But if you're non-technical, then it's Uber app or your bank. When your bank sends you the security SMS, that's us. So,
what about WhatsApp?
So WhatsApp as well. So WhatsApp is also one of our customers, and a lot of other people use us for WhatsApp as well. So you have institutions or even banks that it's expensive or whatever to send SMSs, and their country or community, almost everyone has WhatsApp. So then they'll shoot it over WhatsApp first, and if you don't sort of read it, then they'll send it back up over SMS. So it's the same theory.
So what is the best way of communicating with your users in your opinion? So you have social media, you have emails, you have native applications of the companies and things like that. When I'm thinking from the marketing perspective, context, sorry, if I'm on Instagram and I have audience on Instagram, the algorithms will make sure that not all of the followers see the message, and things like that. If you want to communicate directly with your customers, what is the best way to do it from your?
I mean, I think it's really different, and it depends. There's a lot of things, factors that depend on that. So, I mean, in Code Anywhere, email was actually the #1 way to, if we're talking about marketing reach, that was our #1. But let's say we do similar on conferences, but also we do switch over. It does make sense to send an SMS text when you're actually at the conference versus an email, because an email might be, oh, we have this new speaker, check it out when you have a minute, or, you know, we have a 2-for-1 discount till next Friday. But like if you're at a conference that's 1 day or 2 days, then you need that information at that actual moment, then, you know, send them SMS. So those are the different types I mean, there's different type of use cases for that. And also there's different countries and regulations, because you have countries where a lot of people have send SMS as marketing, like spam, like they'll spam you with it, like you get emails, same thing. I think it's banned in Croatia. Like I haven't got any SMS ads. So yeah,
I think it's not forbidden if you are the one who gave the permission.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm talking about like full out, you know,
cold SMS.
Yeah. So you have like countries that do that as well. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, and it's also levels of security. So I mean, you can do authentication with emails as well now, but a lot of people do use it for, you know, telephones and which ones they're on and stuff like that.
I suppose that your life is similar to mine in that regards. That if you have a smartphone, that it's pinging all the time.
Oh, I turn it off a lot of like.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's gotten out of control that I turn on personal mode, which lets nothing through, except my wife's texts. That's it. And I try to keep that on. I'm not very successful, but the idea is to keep it on every day until noon. That's the idea.
Noon.
That's the idea. And not do anything, but to do. So I read an article a long time ago. It's about rocks and sand. And it's like, so you have a glass, and if you have sand, which are little tasks, you fill it up and then the rocks can't fit in there. But if you do the big tasks, you can always put the sand inside, right? And that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, let me get, you know, at least, if not till noon, like give me 2 hours in the morning, like to do things that you have to concentrate and actually, you know, get into flow and
focus,
do.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then open up the, you know, the craziness of, you know, Teams, Slack, WhatsApp, mail, whatever, all that insaneness. Yeah.
Okay. This is why I asked you what is the best, in your opinion, what is the best way to communicate with your customers or users, because I think that doing what you are doing with the personal mode, with shutting the world off, there is not a lot of people who manages to do that, and
I'm not super successful. I'm trying to do it, but
yes.
Yeah.
This is also something that I try to do as much as possible, because it's really hard to go in a flow and to be focused when from all over the place the notifications are popping in. But when you know with how much of what is the volume of distractions that we are living with at the moment in time, this is why I asked you what do you think that it is the best style of communication.
But I also mean, it also depends on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to steal that person's time, like, I mean, you can be trying to actually sell something, so you don't actually care about the person's time. You just care about getting that person's attention and say, hey, look at whatever I'm offering and buy it, which isn't the nicest thing in the world, but it is. And then there's another thing, is which are you actually trying to help and inform that person and then getting to them. And I mean, it also depends on the type of person it is. Like I have people, like my colleague has an inbox of like 10,000 unread emails. Like I have to call him to say, hey, I sent you the email, and reply that. And he's like, okay, then he'll do it. I'm the person that's like inbox zero crazy and wants to get everything done. So if you send me an email, I'll see that I got it. I'll either archive it, delete it, snooze it, or reply to it. Like, but I'll try to reply to it, whatever it may be. Yes, no, maybe, whatever. So there's different audiences, and it's different sort of what you're trying to do. So is it like, are you actually trying to help the person, or are you trying to be, you know, sell the person, essentially?
Okay. So on a easier note, you mentioned the 3-month world travel with your wife. How important is traveling to you, and what did you learn while traveling?
I think traveling is one of the things that you have to do in your life. I have a thesis I'm working on. It's basically the expansion of what is the so-called Renaissance man, and one of them is to be well-traveled. But I've always liked traveling for the reason that when I started traveling, every time I would come back, my eyes would be, I literally feel like my eyes are a little bit wider, like literally, like you see the world a bit better than you did before. And it doesn't really stop, or to be more accurate, if you travel a lot to similar places, so let's say we're from Croatia, a lot of people will say I traveled a lot, and then they went to, you know, France and England and Germany and whatever, and like it's like, oh, this is so exciting, but it's all similar, really, when you start traveling more. And then you start like cutting off, like when you've done a lot of a type of civilization, then or community or country or whatever it is, then you actually, your eyes don't open up as much, and then you're trying the next thing. What's really interesting, we're going to Nigeria next week, to Lagos, and I'm actually super hyped about that. We have I'm going to like Miami 2 weeks after, which I should be hyped about, but I'm not. I mean, it's cool and I'll learn something. I've never been to Miami, but I've been to the US like 20,000 times. Every country or state is different, but this is somewhere I've never been. I've never been to sub-Saharan Africa at all. So this is like, okay, something new. Let's see how the world works over there, right?
Yeah, the first thing that popped into my mind when you said Nigeria, is it safe?
Well, I've read things, and we will be taking like precautions to go there. But yeah, I mean, there's almost like 300 million people, so it's almost as much as the United States of America. There's a huge developer community down there. There's a lot of developer relations people down there. So it's actually a very interesting place. And also some of our biggest customers of Infobip are actually from Nigeria. So, yeah.
So what would be your most interesting travel?
Most interesting? I mean...
In your opinion, what culture amazed you the most?
I mean, they're really different. It depends on like what style you're trying and what you're trying to achieve with the travel. I mean, you have travel, like I've been to Italy a million times and I love going to Italy, and it's like just like I go there and I eat pasta and get fat and drink wine, and everything's beautiful. Love it. Especially the northern part. Japan was something that I was really shocked with. It was actually like being on Mars in a very good way. It was very good. The food was amazing. Like everything, I don't have one bad thing to say at all. Like none. I love that place. But I mean, it's not always about having nice things. I mean, again, India or New Delhi was like the most profound thing that happened to me going there. And it wasn't the nicest place as I was at, for sure. I mean, Latin America was, for a lot of places, sort of give and take on the safety side. And also, but still very interesting, and I would do it again. I mean, I'm from Canada, and like it's super nice, but it's super boring. Like it's right. So I mean, it depends what you want, I think.
Of course. What is maybe we will go at the end of the interview and have some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Like that. So what is your favorite social media?
My favorite social media.
Like to use the most.
I mean, I'm getting into Twitter lately again. So yeah.
I've seen you.
Yeah, a friend of mine. A friend of mine, Malenica, which runs Mindsmiths, basically said something that really resonated with me. It's like Twitter is the only social network where you can actually reach out in an intelligent way to the entire world. I mean, it is the place where presidents type, where like anyone types. I mean, they do maybe do it on Facebook, but Facebook is so sort of centered around your geographic location. Like I only see the people that are around me. So that kills that, and it's a lot in your own language, where Twitter, there's people that do it in their own language, but for the most part, if you speak English, you can reach anyone. And I've been on Twitter since 2009, I think, but I haven't been using it. And he was actually right, and it stroked something with me. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's push on this one now. So yeah, I think Instagram is the biggest time waster, and TikTok, I don't even get into it. Not that I don't have them, but it's just like just scrolling endlessly for no reason at all.
Yeah, but crypto Twitter can also consume you as much as TikTok or Instagram.
It can.
Because it's very you can get obsessed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The number one cryptocurrency of your choice at the moment that you can bet on to be?
I've invested in Aleph Zero, so A0 is the coin. So a friend of mine got me in. We got in at like 10 cents. Now it got on its first exchange. Now it's like at $1.50. So I got in 10 cents. It was great. And I'm not going anywhere to at least $5 at all. So, and I do really feel that it's a good coin. And this is not financial advice, just saying there. Yeah. But since you asked me, definitely. That's my high risk, high reward coin. But everything else, like, I really believe like Ether, Bitcoin are the S&P 500, I think, of crypto. And basically we'll continue in there. Again, not financial advice, but this is sort of, yeah.
It's your opinion.
Yeah.
What is the book that you gifted the most?
I gifted 3 books the most. And so maybe the first one is, the one I mentioned the most and gifted the most is Why We Sleep. Because that one actually changed a lot about me. The reason is if we're trying to do what we're trying to achieve, then your body, like everything is connected, your body, your mind. Like people say this, but it takes a while for you, or at least for me, to understand it. If you want to be a high achiever, you're basically a Formula 1 car. On a Formula 1 car, everything have to work exactly, or you just like crash and burn and you're dead. So to get everything, I was trying to figure out how things worked for me and why this and this happened. And I found that like half of it might be a strong amount, but a lot of it, of concentration, energy, exercise, muscles, weight, everything is connected to sleep. Yeah. Memory, everything is connected to, like sleep is number one. Like sleep
is the king.
That's it. And it's a book by a PhD professor, I think, that runs a sleep clinic. And every chapter, you have a lot of books that like have one point and just like a bunch of text before and after it. This has like almost, I think, 20 chapters, and every chapter is something else. And so I think that that's the book
So you're also into biohacking, I suppose, then?
A bit, yeah, a bit. Yeah, I'm trying to get the most out of the body, yeah, definitely, without killing it. Yeah.
Without killing it. It was a very good analogy with the Formula 1. I liked it very much. Last question. How does life of your dreams look like?
Life of my dreams.
Or lifestyle, let me say that. Are you there? Do you want something?
I'm not
Are
there
there
yet.
some tweaks?
So I'm not at, I always tell this to my wife, and she's like, I'm not at version 1 of me that should be, like, at all. And she's like, no, you've done so much. And if there's like a absolute scale of the world, so the most unsuccessful, the most successful, like surely I'm on level, whatever it may be, 27, 35, whatever it is. Like there is a level. But when I thought where I would be, I'm still not on like that base. So I'm still not there. I'm close, but not there.
Are you optimizing more for maybe... Happiness is a fluffy word.
Not happiness. I'm not happiness.
Fulfillment, or financial success, or making an impact on the world and then a lot of people.
I think it would be.
What do you optimize for?
I think it's more impact and influence in that section more than it's like financially. Definitely something you need, and I'm not going to say a person that I'm not influenced by finance at all. I absolutely am, but it's not number one. It's never been number one. For me, it's fairly important, but it hasn't been the number one thing. So happiness is not really on my scale, to be honest.
It's not on your radar or
no.
Really?
At one point, I was like, I don't even care about happiness at all. It's
really?
Like, yeah, because, I mean, you can be content, because I think happiness is a lot of I don't know, BS in that sense. Like I'm happy sitting on this bench doing nothing. Like I'm not happy doing that. Like, so I don't know what that is. Like when we do something really well, I'm like happy with myself, with my team, whatever. And that's cool. And that's something, I forgot the word, but it's something more long lasting in the sense that you're continually know you're giving the best of yourself and doing things successfully, making it. But like happy is just not.
But you find a lot of meaning and fulfillment doing what you're doing at the moment.
I feel that I think it's, and this might be a problem with me. I might have to talk to someone about that. But I feel that if I'm not doing that, that I'm just like a bum and wasting my life. And so the not doing that gives a negative context, but the doing it doesn't give a positive, or it doesn't give that much of a positive. But not doing gives a negative.
So when you go on a vacation, can you?
I can enjoy. So I like.
Can you do nothing?
No, like not really. Not really.
Do you get nervous and anxious without doing anything?
So I've learned to, what I found is that like, especially when you have these like shoots of extreme, work or whatever, I do need rest. So rest you do need. So I love going, to dinner with my wife. I love going to party with friends. I love opening a bottle of wine. I like eating good food. Like those things I do absolutely like. And I didn't ever go to like resorts before or resorty places, like standing by the pool. I would never do that because it was boring for me. But now just because of the tiredness, I do it, but I'm like usually reading, probably not emailing, like I'll get rid of the instant, notifications, but like long-term thinking, reading and stuff like that, then that's okay. So body's resting and mind is moved away from like the instant sort of pings.
Ivan, thank you so much for your time. Your story and your success really inspires me, and I hope that it inspires the people listening to this and watching this. But what is the most inspiring for me is that you are still very humble and down-to-earth guy. That is a very good quality for me, and I congratulate you the most on that quality.
Thank you. I mean, this is Infobip's thing, but I guess it applies here. It's like we're humble engineers. I mean, I don't think you should ever. I don't feel that I'm in that sense humble, but I just think it's okay to talk to people and be normal because you are normal. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me,
guys. We'll watch each other and listen to each other next time in 2 weeks. So enjoy.